Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to be playing some modern Magic the Gathering on Magic Online, and this is the deck we're going to be playing. We are going to be playing some 5-color humans, and this is the list that I'm currently set on. Most of the deck is relatively what you know. It's a relatively stock list. I have a few little tweaks here that I've been playing. Um, I currently have 2 Deputy of Detention in the main deck. I also have a third copy in the sideboard. This card has been very impressive. I do think this card is very good in humans, and I would recommend playing it. Um, Outside of that, there is a fourth copy of Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, and in order to make room for that one, I trimmed down on one of my Kite Sail freebooters. Outside of that, you pretty much have all your standard 4-ofs, Champion, Noble, either Vial, Thalia's Lieutenant, Phantasmal Image, Meddling Mage, and then 4 Reflector Mage and 4 Mantis Rider. So those are kind of the couple tweaks that I have with the current main deck. As far as your sideboard is concerned, there's 3 Auriok Champion, 1 Whirler Rogue, 1 Dismember, 2 Ravenous Trap, like you said, the third Deputy, 2 Sin Collector, 1 Static Caster, 1 Teague, and a bunch of Damping Spheres. Right now, there is a lot of Tron in the metagame. The new Karn the Great Creator and Mycosynth Lattice combo is out there, so there's a lot of people that are playing Tron. Um, Humans is also another very popular deck, so I have a couple of extra cards here for the Humans Mirror. You have Deputy, Static Caster, Dismember, Whirler Rogue, and the Auriok Champions. And then you still have your standard Graveyard Hate. You have Ravenous Traps, and pretty much all of your normal suspects. But anyway, this is the list we're going to be playing. We're going to go spin around here. We're going to go hop in our competitive league, and we're going to see how it goes. All right, looks like round one here. We are going to be on the draw, and we have a very good opening hand. Our opponent is taking a mulligan to 6. So this is our hand. We get to go turn 1 Vial, turn 2 Champion, copy it with Phantasmal Image, and then double Reflector Mage to put the pressure on. So hopefully this is a matchup where Reflector Mage is good. And we are playing against Affinity. Affinity can be a tough matchup depending on our opponent's draw. I will take my 1. And our opponent looks like they kept the 1 lander, which is good news for us. And they missed. So that being said, it almost might be worth putting the Thalia into play here. I originally was going to go Champion, Image, Copying Champion, but the fact that they missed their land drop here is probably worth putting the Thalia into play. Especially if they have something like a Cranial Plating in their hand, it's going to slow down the Cranial Plating. Or if it's a creature that they're going to play, we're going to have the follow up with the train of Reflector Mages. So that's what I'm going to do here. We're going to start with the Champion of the Parish and then play our Thalia. As soon as our opponent lets us do that. A lot of times, if you want to keep pace with Affinity, you need to have these Reflector Mage draws in order to keep up with them, because usually they have something like Vault Scourge, they have Cranial Plating, like they have a lot of spells that you really can't interact with very well. The humans deck obviously doesn't really play any removal outside of Reflector Mage, and now we have Deputy of Detention, so it's gotten a little bit better, but so it's not quite as bad as what it was previously. but we also have a very good draw this game against them, so we should be in pretty good shape. Especially if they miss on their land here again. So they have double Ink Moth. Steel Overseer, that's fine. So we can just set them back to the Stone Ages here. We get to bounce both of their creatures. And get in for a nice attack for 6 here this turn. And we also have the third Reflector Mage in our hand for next turn. And that's good enough. All right, so game 2 we go. So we're going to bring in this Deputy. We're going to bring in the Staticaster and the Dismember. Those are definitely our best cards here that we have in the matchup. All right, so what do we not want? All of our 3-drops are good. We're going to keep all of our 3-drops. I'm going to at least trim 1 Thalia. We might take out more. Especially being on the draw. Thalia is definitely worse on the draw. I think we're going to keep the images, the Freebooter, the Meddling Mage. That package is all going to stay. Freebooter is nice because now that they're playing the... Oh, I'm blanking on the name. The new 4-mana enchantment that they're starting to play in the deck. Freebooter can take that. Experimental Frenzy, that's what it is. So Freebooter Meddling Mage is still good. That package is still good. So I think what I'm going to do here is just cut Thalias. We'll keep one in the deck, but it's not a very important card. One will be fine. I don't usually bring an Auriok Champion here because gaining 1 or 2 life against Affinity generally isn't going to be that big of a deal. Especially on the draw. This hand's good. We'll keep. It's a 1-lander, but we have double Noble Hierarch. All right, so our opponent has a much better start this game. Turn 1 Cranial Plating is pretty good. We're going to lead on the Noble Hierarch here. We can't really take the chance of missing on our second land drop, so we need to lead on the Noble. Ravager. All right, so we're probably just super dead here. Our opponent had a great opening hand. They had a turn 1 plating, and they have the Ravager to help protect themselves. I mean, we can play Mantis Riders here. Mantis Rider lets us trade with the Ornithopter. We can block an Inkmoth Nexus, and we can also block a Ravager. So that's probably the best thing we can do here is just play the Mantis Rider train. This also lets us apply a little bit of pressure, and we can also have a blocker back. So now they have the double black, so they can move the cranial plating at instant speed. This Ink Moth Nexus is going to be huge. So you do have to be wary. This is the kind of draw that you have to be wary out of Affinity, that they just don't one-shot you with an Ink Moth Nexus. Vault Scourge, sure. Now they can also put cranial plating on Vault Scourge. That's going to make this very difficult. So if we block the Ink Moth Nexus here, they're going to probably move a bunch of counters to it with Ravager. You can block and trade with the Ornithopter, but the cranial plating is still going to be an issue. So our opponent has us covered here pretty well either way. I mean, you can just block Ravager. If you block Ravager, they can still eat it. So I think we just don't have a good line here. I'm going to block the Nexus. At least this way, they have to sacrifice their Ravager if they want to kill our Mantis Rider. Okay, well, they just decided to sack the Nexus. That's fine. That was not a very good draw. We really needed to draw like a deputy of detention there if we wanted to have a chance. So I guess we're just going to play another Mantis Rider and attack for 6. Maybe our opponent will forget that they can instant speed the plating. All right, so they're going to move the Vault Scourge. So we will block Vault Scourge and block. I guess the Ravager. So we're going to make our opponent do something here. There goes the plating, and we're dead. All right, so game 3, at least we're going to be on the play here. Is there anything we want to change here after board? Thalia is still kind of in the same boat. Like, it can be okay, but it's still nothing special. So I'm just gonna leave the one Thalia. As far as the rest of the cards here in the sideboard, like nothing else is gonna be good enough. So I'm just gonna leave it the way we have it here. Hopefully we draw some removal this game, or our opponent doesn't have the busted turn one plating draw. Yes, I would like to play first. No, I would not like to keep this hand. This hand is also not playable, unfortunately. I mean, if this was a green land, I would keep this hand, but as it stands, we can't play any spells, so we can't keep it. This one is better. We will bottom the vial here. We're going to bottom the vial because our turn, we're not going to have a good spot here to play this. We're going to go land champion, turn 2, image, copy champion, and hopefully we rip a land to play the Mantis Rider. So we're not going to have a window here to play this vial, so this is going to go on the bottom. Our opponent also kept 7. Vault Scourge is a good one. Deputy of Detention was a nice draw, but we need to draw the land to go with it. Alright, so we have double champion. We get to get in for 2 this turn. We'll take my 1. Alright, our opponent missed on their land, but they had the Galvanic Blast. So land, please. Excellent. Now we can play Mantis Rider. So it looks like our opponent kept a little bit of a suspect hand. But fortunately for them, they had that Galvanic Blast. Otherwise, they would have been in a real world of pain here if we still had that other champion. One thing to note about Deputy, Deputy is not a human, so that's not going to trigger our champion when we play it. It's another blast. Yeah. I think I'm just going to fire off this Deputy here. Just fire off this Deputy, take out the Vault Scourge. It keeps them one mana away, still farther away from activating this Opal. All right, so they're going to 7. Next turn, we at least get to cycle this Canopy, so we'll get 2 draws next turn. So they found their land. Overseer, yeah, we don't really care about that one right now. Mantis Rider is a pretty excellent draw. So this is going to require them to chump block here. Because now we have 7 damage on board. And our opponent scoops them up. All right, so we got a nice little win against Affinity in the first round. Like I said, Affinity is not generally a great matchup, but we had a good draw game 1. They just crushed us game 2, and we had a pretty reasonable draw game 3, even with the mulligan to 5. So that is a nice way to start this league. All right, round 2, here we go. Looks like we are going to be on the draw again. And this hand is pretty good. We'll keep this. We have turn 1 Vial, turn 2 either Freebooter or Thalia, most likely. Not the most aggressive hand. So it could be either really good or really bad depending on our matchup here. And if our opponent's playing Storm, Storm's usually the only deck that plays Shivan Reef. We actually could be in pretty good shape. This is actually a very good hand against Storm. All right, so double Serum Visions. Double Serum Visions means we're probably going to lead on Thalia next turn. Especially if they miss on a land here. They found their land. All right, so let's see what we draw here. We could either Freebooter or Thalia. Reflector Mage is not great. So normally you want to lead on Freebooter, but the matchup being what it is, Thalia is such a powerhouse in this matchup. The only way we really get punished by leading with Thalia is if they have a Lightning Bolt in their hand. But if they Lightning Bolt our Thalia, we still get the Freebooter Meddling Mage them next turn. So I think I'm actually just going to lead with Thalia here. And if they take the turn to play one of their mana dorks, we can Reflector Mage it back to their hand. Serum Visions is a good sign for us. All right, so they put 2 cards on the bottom with this last Serum Visions. So they're going to be drawing a random off the top. So this is a pretty good turn. I think we're just going to go freebooter meddling mage, and then we're going to be able to get in for a big attack next turn. You have the Vile freebooter, like you can draw step freebooter them, but I think the information here is going to be more valuable, so we can name something, make sure we hit with our meddling mage. So let's start with our freebooter. We'll get maximum information here. All right. So the way this hand is currently set up, we're going to probably meddling mage the Manamorphose. We don't really care about pieces of the puzzle because it's 4 mana and they're very far away from casting it. So I think we're going to probably take the Desperate Ritual here. Freebooter, take the Desperate Ritual. Meddling Mage, take the 2 Manamorphose. That's going to leave them with pieces they can't cast, Gifts Ungiven they can't cast, and all they're going to have is the Opt. All right, so name Manamorphose. Let's attack. Okay, there's the Opt that we knew about. They found their land. All right, so Vile trigger on the stack here. We can either sacrifice this canopy, but I kind of think what I'm going to do here is just leave this Vile on 2 and take the draw. We can also put Vile up to 3 and just cast this Thalia's Lieutenant. If we put Vile up to 3, that'll allow us to keep up an end step Reflector Maze, just in case they get to play one of their mana guys or they try to go off in between. So maybe that's better. Maybe we'll actually put Vile up to 3 here and just plan on casting this Lieutenant. Manus Rider is also pretty good. So now we can just go Manus Rider and Thalia's Lieutenant and not even worry about these Reflector Mages. And we're going to hit them for 1,000,000 here. So that'll be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If we go with the Manus Rider Thalia's Lieutenant, that's going to be 12 damage. Keeping up Reflector Mage here, I don't think is going to really do a whole lot for us. Especially we've seen that they didn't have any of the mana dorks in their hand. So we're going to cast Thalia. Comes into play, the trigger goes on the stack, and now you can activate Vile, put in Mantis Rider. So this way these guys both get to see each other and you get a counter on both. And crash for 1,000,000. Our opponent goes to 4, and they can do their worst here. So they found some lands. Yeah. I mean, if they're casting pieces of the puzzle, they're not winning this game. All right. That was a pretty nice little game one there. All right, so we are going to bring in Dismember, 2 Sin Collectors, our Damping Spheres, Gaddock Teague. So this is already a really good matchup. Storm is always a very good matchup game one, but it just gets even better here post board. So the 4 Reflector Mages can come out. Those are not great. We want the rest here. We want Champion, Noble, Vile, Thalia, Lieutenant. One thing you want to be wary of is you do want to make sure you have some type of an answer to empty the Warrens in your deck. You don't usually after board they're not usually going to be able to combo you off just with Grape Shot, so they're going to have to try to go for an empty the Warrens kill. So keeping a couple deputies in the deck is not a bad idea. So I think we're going to stick with the 1 Dismember and the 2 deputies. I don't think we really want to go up to the 3rd deputy or the 3rd Staticaster, because then you're starting to overkill a little bit. But we need to make a couple more trims here. Sometimes I'll trim Thalia's Lieutenant or Phantasmal Image. Phantasmal Image is really bad against Grape Shot. And Thalia's Lieutenant, if they're going to be playing, sometimes they play like Anger of the Gods and some type of sweeper in their sideboard that makes Thalia's Lieutenant a little bit worse. So I think we're going to go down 2 Lieutenants and 1 Phantasmal Image. You can do some combination of those cards to trim. So our opponent's mulliganing to 6. This hand is really good if we find a second land. But if you don't find a second land, all you're doing is playing a turn 1 champion. I think we're on the draw, so I think I'm actually going to keep this hand. We're just going to hope we have two draw steps to find a land, so hopefully one of them's there. And our opponent's on a mulligan too, so hopefully we have some time. All right, so that was not our land. Land, please. All right, perfect. All right, so Thalia is going to offset their Goblin Electromancer. We can go Freebooter and take whatever their payoff card is their hand. I think I'm actually going to lead on Freebooter here, especially considering they were on the mulligan. I think I would rather play the Freebooter. It's pretty likely that they have something like a Lightning Bolt in their hand. Gifts and Given, Opt, Repeal. All right, so Repeal is their answer card. So I think here we're actually going to take the gifts. If we let them untap, they're just going to cast the gifts. At least if we take that, they're going to be forced to play the Repeal to get it back. So we're going to take the gifts here. I'd rather them not just untap and get the free window to play it. And I'm actually going to offer the trade here. If they want to trade with the champion, I'm okay with that. Okay, they start with an opt. Serum Visions, sure. Now we can actually take the repeal out of their hand. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to go freebooter and take the repeal. All right, so they found an Abrade. So champion is down. Now they have a wipe away too. All right. Well, we'll take the repeal because repeal cycles and lets them draw a card, and it's cheaper. If they want to spend a turn playing a wipe away, I mean, they found multiple answer spells there, so there's only so much you can do. You drew a Manamorphose, okay. Pieces of the puzzle, sure. Ritual, Bolt. Now they can Gifts Ungiven. Those are pretty good pieces of the puzzle. So we know the last card in their hand is Wipe Away. Our opponent drew a ton of answers this game. So they had Abrade, Lightning Bolt, Repeal, and Wipe Away. All right, so we are choosing 2 cards to go to the graveyard. I guess it's just going to be the 2 rituals. Yeah, because you could put the 2 rituals in the yard, or you can go ritual Manamorphose. That way they don't get to draw the card off of the Manamorphose, which that actually might be better. It might be better to put ritual Manamorphose in the yard. Okay, so we drew a land this turn. So we know their hand is Past in Flames, Wipe Away, and Ritual. So let's see. If they untap, they're going to spend 1 mana, gain 3 off of the Poetic Ritual, and they're going to get the Past in Flames. This could be a good window to play the Thalia. If you play Thalia, they don't have the mana to do anything else. They can go 2 mana Ritual, cast Past in Flames, but then they don't have any mana. They don't have anything else floating. So this is probably a good window to get the Thalia into play. We're gonna name Wizard with this next Cavern because right now we don't have the 2 mana to play the Deputy of Detention if we want to get it into play. So we have everything else covered with the Ancient Ziggurat. We have to name something different here for the Deputy. So we'll name Wizard, play Thalia. And we're kind of hoping next turn that we get to draw land so we can double spell. We can either double image or image Thalia's Lieutenant. Even Deputy of Detention taking their Electromancer is not bad. Okay, Brawl. All right, well, we didn't hit the land. Not hitting the land there is a little unfortunate. So now we can basically freeboot them, take the Past in Flames. If you freeboot them, take the Past in Flames, that's going to force them to cast their Wipe Away. Because next turn, Past in Flames is going to only cost them 2. All right, so yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go Image and take the Past in Flames. Taking the Wipe Away doesn't really help you here, so we're going to actually force them to cast the Wipe Away to get their Past in Flames back. This way also allows us to play Phantasmal Image or Meddling Mage, and if they don't respond to it, then we can name the Wipe Away. And they only have 1 blue mana here, so now they can't even cast the Wipe Away because they cast the Opt. Now we just get to go image, take the wipe away. And they have double Pyretic Ritual. Caster Vial. Oh, no, we can't do that. Cannot do that with Thalia in play. And now if they can't do anything this turn, next turn, we just get to go Meddling Mage on Pyretic Ritual, and they're basically going to do a bunch of nothing. Could also play Damping Sphere, but we're going to Meddling Mage here first. Let's get some attacks in. Another freebooter, you say, huh? So we can either play Damping Sphere here or play Thalia's Lieutenant. If you play Thalia's Lieutenant, basically lets us attack with everybody. Nah, I think we're just going to be super safe here and play the Damping Sphere. Oh, never mind. We have a Ziggurat. We cannot do that. So Damping Sphere is off the table. Could play Deputy of Detention then instead. If you play Deputy, it lets them go back to needing to spend the extra mana on all their spells. I think that's actually pretty good. Deputy, take the Baral. Attack with our Flyers, attack with our Thalia because she has first strike. And we will keep back our Meddling Mage. We do not want to trade that one. All right, and our opponent's going down to 5. All right, opponent, what do you got? You got 2 cards in your hand that we don't know about. Two cards in the hand that they don't know about. The other 2 are the Pyretic Rituals that they can't cast because of our Meddling Mage. We have their Past in Flames on lockdown. They currently have no mana advantage because of our Thalia and their Electromancer, so they're paying full retail on any of their cards in their hand. I'm trying to think if there's a way of them to even potentially get out of this. I mean, I guess if they draw a Lightning Bolt, they can Lightning Bolt or Meddling Mage, get back 2 Pyretic Rituals. But regardless of what they're trying to do, they have to try to go off this turn. So because we definitely have lethal next turn, so whatever they're doing, it has to be done this turn. Our opponent appears to be giving it a nice long look here. So maybe they drew something relevant. They didn't just concede, so maybe they drew something here that could potentially keep them in the game. And they're passing the turn. Okay, so unclaimed territory. It's name human. All right, so now we can play Damping Sphere. So we have 1, 2, 3 in the air. So let's see. If they, let's say they drew the Lightning Bolt. If they drew Lightning Bolt, they can kill our Deputy. If they kill Deputy, get back Baral, they can block 2 creatures, and they actually survive another turn. So if we're going to try to play around some type of removal spell, we should probably play the Thalia's Lieutenant. We can go Freebooter Lieutenant is going to be better than the Damping Sphere. So I think that's what we're going to do here. I think we're going to lead on Freebooter. I would like to not give them a window here to try to get back into this game if they drew a Lightning Bolt. They did draw the Lightning Bolt. All right, so they are going to Lightning Bolt the one with the repeal. Okay, so they're going to get back a repeal. Now they're going to repeal something. They're going to repeal the image. So that's going to give them back the wipe away. Okay. Freeboot happens. Take the wipe away. Cast our Thalia's Lieutenant. And crash for lethal. All right, so that was a pretty sweet game against Storm. That's how you dismantle your Storm opponent. Our opponent drew a million answers to keep themselves in the game and potentially try to draw out of it. But fortunately, that last turn we decided to go with the freebooter because, like I said, had we decided to play the Damping Sphere, there was actually a window there for our opponent to get back into that game, and they might have been able to kill us on their next turn, depending on how things ended up unfolding. So, but regardless, we're here. We have a nice little 2-0. Round 1 was a win against Affinity. Round 2 was our win against Storm. And we're going to hop into round 3 here, and hopefully we keep the train rolling. All right, opponents, let's go. Where are we at? All right, while we're hanging out here, while we're waiting, we're going to pull up the modern metagame here as MTG Goldfish has it currently stated. This is not always ideal, this is always not perfect, but it gives you a general description. So you're looking at humans, blue-white control, Tron, blue-red Phoenix as your top four decks in the metagame. Humans is just a deck I feel like is just not going to go away. It keeps a lot of the unfair decks in check and can keep pace with stuff like Dredge and Amulet Titan. You get to play 4 copies of Thalia's Lieutenant, which is good against the Phoenix decks. Um, Tron is another deck that's also been very popular. Tron is getting the new Mycosynth Lattice combo, so a lot of people are really in on that one. But all right, so it looks like our opponent decided to show up. We are going to be on the play this round. This hand, so we get the lead on. So we go Canopy Vial, Vial and Noble. This hand's a little awkward because we only have the one land, but I think this is a keep because then Vial we get to go 2 into Thalia, 2 into Thalia. We have Reflector Mage to Deputy. So I think this is a keep. And hopefully we draw our second land here. But I'm not going to throw this one back. Not with the turn 1 Vial on the play. And we're playing against Hollow One. I enjoy playing Hollow One a lot, but it's not a deck that you run into as much as what you used to. So we are really hoping we draw a land here, because if we can go land Noble Thalia, it's going to really slow them down. Beautiful. All right, so we have Thalia, and then we get to go Thalia's Lieutenant into a couple of removal spells. So this hand is going to be very good for us this game. Cycling a Street Wraith, sure. All right, so now we get the Violin Noble. And our opponent is good enough there because so there we get the Violent Noble, we get the double block, and we get to eat their Flameblade Adept. So our opponent is just going to get owned in that exchange. So they had enough. They didn't even want to see the rest of what we had. All right, so Auriok Champion is very good against them. Dismember is good. Deputy is good. We're not going to bring in Damping Sphere. We don't want Teague. We don't want Staticaster. Sin Collector is not going to be good enough. Ravenous Trap is maybe. Let's see what we got here. Ravenous Trap is better against stuff like Dredge. I mean, Hollow One can win through Graveyard Hate, so it's not quite as good against Hollow One, but let's see what we're going to be taking out here. We want Deputy, we want Reflector Mage, we want Manus Rider. None of that is going anywhere. All of these other cards are actually pretty good. So we're going to be looking, if we're going to be making trims, we're going to be looking at this 2-drop slot, whether it be Thalia's Lieutenants, Images, Freebooters, or Meddling Mages. So Hollow One plays Lightning Bolt and Fatal Push. After board, they're also going to have usually Engineered Explosives. So they definitely side into a lot more removal. That being said, the Freebooter plan is reasonable against them. So I'm going to actually trim on some of the Thalia's Lieutenants. Like I said, they're siding into a bunch of spot removal, so that makes the Lieutenants worse. It also makes the Images worse. So we're going to trim those. We'll take 2 Images out, 2 Lieutenants out, and one more card here. I think I'm just going to cut another lieutenant. I might actually just cut all the lieutenants. If you just cut the 4 lieutenants, you can keep the images, and then we just go Auriok Champion, copy your Auriok Champion, and try to get them that way. The only card that they have that gets through this is either a Flying Flamewake Phoenix or a Hollow one. So I think this is actually pretty good here. I think cutting the lieutenants makes a lot of sense. All right, so this hand is no Vial, but we have Thalia, Mantis Rider, Deputy, so I think this is good enough to keep. All right, no luck, we didn't draw a 1-drop there, but I guess we can't complain too much. We would like to draw a land here next turn. One of our next 2 turns, we would like to draw a land. Burning Tree Emissary. That was unexpected. Burning Tree Emissary is unusual. It's not always in these decks. So they discarded 1 Hollow one, but they got to cast another one. Alright, so we get to play our Thalia here. Alright, so cross our fingers, hope we hit that land next turn. If we hit the land, we get to Reflector Mage the Hollow one back to their hand. Or we can Deputy it, but we're going to want to Reflector Mage it first, because if they kill the Deputy, they just get it back. So that one's weaker. Thalia down. All right, so this is not traditional Hollow one. Hollow one is usually black red, so they're playing a different version of the deck here. This looks like this is the Vengevine build. Land, please. All right, no land. Thalia comes back in. So they're playing Bushwhackers. Okay. All right, we cannot block. This guy has Menace. Another Hollow one. All right, that's going to be good enough. At least if we drew a land there, we could play Deputy, take the 2 Hollow ones, and hope they don't have a removal spell. But we did not, so we're going to go to game 3. All right, so now that this is the Vengevine build, does this change the way we want to board at all? Auriok Champion is still probably pretty good. I mean, we could also bring in Thalia's Lieutenants back in because we're on the play here. We could actually just cut the Meddling Mages. We could just play a more aggressive game, and because if we play Meddling Mage, we're just going to basically be naming Lightning Bolt. Because we were kind of anticipating on them having Fatal Push and Engineered Explosives, which I don't think the red-green list plays, so I don't think Meddling Mage here is going to be quite as good, so I could definitely see taking the Meddling Mages out. There could be an argument for Ravenous Trap here too, especially with them being Vengevine. So if let's say we do this, let's say we take the mages out, bring back in the Thalia's Lieutenants. Let's say maybe we bring in those 2 and put the Ravenous Traps in. How does that look? Ravenous Trap here for me is just it's just doesn't. I don't know if this is gonna be good enough, honestly. All right, I think I'm gonna leave the Auriok Champions in, and hopefully we just don't get run over by a Vengevine draw. Like Ravenous Trap is good against Dredge, it's good against better against Hollow One, but I don't know if it's gonna be good enough against this version of the deck. All right, this hand's good. We'll keep this hand. We get to go turn one champion, turn two Thalia, and we have a dismember if they have a fast Hollow One. Cavern's actually a really good draw there because Cavern lets us unlocks both our Auriok champion and our Thalia, or I'm sorry, our Mantis Rider. So I think what I'm gonna do here is actually just play the Thalia. Let's see if they have a Lightning Bolt here in response. I presume our champion is gonna die. Nope. Either that or they want to keep the Lightning Bolt for the Thalia, which is totally reasonable. But this allows us to play Mantis Rider next turn. Nothing. So them doing nothing, I think, is a pretty big red flag for a Lightning Bolt here. I mean, does that change our plan at all? Not really. I think we're just gonna jam this Mantis Rider. All right, so they're taking a big hit. Down to 7. And they're cycling a Hollow One. That's a good sign for us. That is not where you want to be. You do not want to be cycling your Hollow Ones like that. Hooting Mandrills. We do not care at all about that one. And I would like to attack for lethal, please. All right, that was good enough. We are currently 3-0. So something to note for that last game is so we had that Auriok champion in our hand the whole game, and we just didn't really have a good window that we wanted to play it. So maybe the Auriok champion was fine, but we also didn't have a window there for the Ravenous Trap. So I'm still not quite sure which one we should have had there. I mean, our opponent didn't exactly have a very good hand from the way it looks like they kept a pretty suspect hand. So it's kind of hard to judge from that game which one we would have rather had in our opening hand, but it's definitely an interesting argument. That red green list with the Vengevines has always been the one that gets probably sees the least amount of play because it's more of like a glass cannon style deck compared to Hollow One. Hollow One you can actually win a grindy game with Bloodghast and Flame Wake Phoenixes. That one with you're just basically trying to dump multiple Hollow Ones or multiple Vengevines into play on turn one. So that's definitely more of the glass cannon style. I do like playing Hollow One. Hollow One is a deck that I enjoy because you have the potential to play the super busted fast turn one, turn two combo style hands, and you also win a nice long grindy game with those other recursive creatures that keep coming back from the graveyard. So if you're gonna play a style like a deck like that style, I would definitely recommend the Hollow One build. All right, so while we're hanging out here waiting for our opponents, let's pull this metagame here back up. So Modern's at a point where we're currently waiting for Modern Horizons to come out. Um, we have a couple cards that might make an impact into the format. Force of Negation is interesting for like the blue-white control decks. I think it'll be very good in blue-white control and Esper control. But outside of that, I don't expect to see it in any of these other decks. I mean, Phoenix isn't going to play it. It doesn't help their game plan at all. So there's a couple of cards that are potentially going to see play in the format from the new set, but I don't see anything significant coming out other than the Pain lands, the Horizon Canopy style lands. We are on the play here. We won the die roll again, so yes, I would like to play first. This hand is really reliant on this Meddling Mage. Like, more than I want it to be. If we're playing a matchup where Meddling Mage isn't good, we could be in some serious trouble here. So we have the turn one Vial. Turn one Vial, turn two Meddling Mage. Canopy to cycle. Not to mention we have two Vials. So this is basically a 5-land hand. You have two Vials and 3 regular lands. I'm actually going to throw this one back. This one worries me a little bit. It's a hand that can very easily flood if you draw a land or two off of the top. And if our opponent does something like turn one Inquisition, like our hand does actual nothing. So I'm going to throw this one back. This hand is slightly better. We go turn one Vial, turn two Vial with a Scry. So this one I'm actually going to keep. Reflector Mage I'm going to put on the bottom. We already have one. We have a Deputy. So Reflector Mage can go to the bottom. We do not need another one of those. This is a little bit of a sketchy hand, I'm not going to lie. But I still think this hand is better than our first one. Island Serum Visions. So this could be Storm. This could be a blue-white control deck. This could be Phoenix. This could be any number of things. All right, so we drew our land. At this point, we definitely don't want any more lands. All right, so let's put our counters on our vials. Kitesail Freebooter, that is not a bad one. So our opponent just going Mountain Go is a little interesting. It kind of makes you think you're holding up a lightning bolt. So I mean, we can go freebooter, cast freebooter image on their turn, and freebooter them again. So I think that's fine. Let's cast our freebooter. Let's see what's going on. If this is a control deck, they can't counter the freebooter. All right, so they want a lightning bolt here. We can activate Vial and get the freebooter them again, which I think is fine. I think that's what we're going to do here. All right, so we're playing against Jeskai Control. Jeskai Control is a very tough matchup for humans. All right, so they have Teferi. Teferi can just bounce our creature. They can just bring in Teferi, bounce it, and get back whatever, because this is going to be the image. The image is going to be the one that's in play, so they can just minus and they're just going to outright kill our creature. Path to Exile. If we leave them with the Path to Exile, it's the same thing. So it doesn't really matter which one we take here, except they have to spend extra mana on Teferi. They have to spend 3 mana on Teferi. Worth noting, Deputy can take their Teferi. So that's probably better. We're probably better off taking the Path to Exile here. But our opponent's going to have us in a pretty hard pinch here. So worth noting, had we kept our opening hand with the Meddling Mage image, it would have been pretty poor in this matchup as well. Yeah, so they're going to Teferi minus, get their Path to Exile back. So now they have Path to Exile, Snapcaster Mage. This game is almost over already because we're just going to be so far behind. Because even if we take Teferi, eat Teferi here, they can Path our guy, get their Teferi back. They have Snapcaster Path. Like, I'm not even going to bother playing this game. There's no way we're getting back into this game here. So we're just going to cut our losses. We're going to go to the next game, and hopefully we have a better hand this time. We can bring in 2 Sin Collectors here. Damping Sphere is not great. Staticaster is not going to be good. Deputy might come in. Dismember. We're gonna bring in Dismember. We've seen Saheeli. They're playing the Saheeli combo. We've seen Philidar Guardian. Whirler Rogue. Auriok Champion is not good. We might bring in this Gaddock Teague. And we might bring in Deputy. So these are the cards that we might bring in here. Reflective Mages are gonna be bad. Those 4 can come out. And 2 more cards. I think the other 2 are just gonna be images. Images, we've seen how bad it is against Teferi. All they have to do is bounce it. So image is pretty poor. And I think the rest of this actually looks pretty good. The only other consideration is if you would want to cut the other 2 Phantasmal images. If you'd rather cut the 2 Phantasmal images and keep something like 2 Reflector Mages in your deck. But we already have Dismember and we have the other deputies, so I think keeping 2 images is fine. All right, so we're going to be on the play. This hand is not good. We go turn 1 territory, noble, turn 2 Thalia or freebooter. Like, okay, so it's not terrible, but it's heavily reliant on this noble hierarch surviving, which in this matchup is tough to rely on any of your creatures surviving. Maybe we. So this is a very close hand. All right, we'll keep it. This hand is very, very close. But like I said, if they just kill our noble, we're going to be in some serious trouble. We're on the play, so it's a little more likely for it to survive, but they're not going to Path to Exile this on the first turn. So the only way they're going to kill this on the first turn is if they have a Lightning Bolt. Okay, so they're taking a mulligan to 6. Looks like they're keeping their 6. No Lightning Bolt, please. Serum Visions, okay. All right, so we can either go Freebooter or Thalia. I think I'm going to go Freebooter first. Hopefully, if they only have one removal spell in their hand, hopefully we can nab that one removal spell. Oh, they don't have mana. That's what they don't have. All right, so let's see what they did with the Serum Visions. 2 on the bottom. All right, so they did not find their lands from the way it appears. All right, so we're going to have to try to end this game as fast as possible. So they have a Braid and Lightning Bolt. We're not going to take either one of those. They don't have the mana to cast it. They're very far away from Supreme Verdict. We're actually going to take the Spreading Seas here. We're going to take the Spreading Seas. It stops them from cycling, and it also lets us keep our land here tapping for other colors. So Spreading Seas is going to be down. We're going to have this is going to be a game where we're going to hope that they miss on their lands. All right, so they did not hit there. All right, so now we're going to play Thalia. Attack for 2. No lands. And they missed. All right, so we're in business here. Hopefully we can keep this pressure on. So we're just going to we're trying to kill them here as fast as possible. So now we get to go Champion of the Parish and Thalia's Lieutenant. At this point, there's no trying to play around any removal or anything. We're going to take this window here and hope to kill them with their stumble. This is one of the reasons why I think Humans is such a good deck in Modern, is it really punishes people when they keep a bad hand like this. And even if they draw a land now, they only get to kill one of our creatures, and we're still going to get in for a big crack. All right, so that was a pretty quick game 2. So they had a free win game 1 pretty much. We had basically a free win game 2. Now we'll see if we actually get to play a full game here for game 3. I do not believe we're going to change anything. Nope. We're gonna leave it the way it is. Game 3. Here we go. All right, this hand's pretty good. We'll keep this. Turn 1 Vial. Then we have Thalia, Freebooter, and a Mana Strider. Okay, Scalding Tarn, go. All right, so Cavern, Vial. Your turn. Spreading Seas on my Cavern. Sure. I'm a little surprised that they have Spreading Seas in their deck still. I mean, trying to mana screw a deck that plays Ether Vial most of the time is not going to work very well. But then again, they can also blink it with the Philidor Sovereign, so maybe that's why they still have it in. All right, Vial Trigger, we're going to go up to 1. Let's play another Cavern. Let's play our Freebooter. Generally, you want to lead on Freebooter just because if they have a hand with only 1 removal spell in it, you can try to pick off that 1 removal spell. So here they only have the Path to Exile. Yeah, so Saheeli deals 1 damage. Saheeli is going to be annoying against our Thalia, but there isn't a whole lot we're going to really do about that one. But we're going to take the Path to Exile here. We can end step the Noble. We'll see if they're going to play Teferi or Saheeli. My guess is they're going to probably just play Saheeli here, because if they play Teferi, bring it in, you're not going to bounce the freebooter, because then we just get to play it again and take the Path to Exile back. So it doesn't really make sense for them to play the Teferi on this board. So I'm kind of expecting them to play Saheeli, unless they draw something different. No, they want to play the Teferi. Maybe they plus it. Okay. See, this is what I was very skeptical of. Like, this is actually really bad on their part, I think, because you just bounce this, that's fine, and you get your Path to Exile back, but now I just get to replay Freebooter and take it. Like, this play is not good for them. Especially with you see me sitting here with the Vial in play too. So now we get to attack, kill the Teferi. Okay, put our Noble in. Let's go to our turn. Yes, Vial can go up to 2. Be nice if our opponent would play a little bit faster here. We're taking our good old time. All right, so another land. We didn't need another land, but all right. So how do we want to go about this? So Noble on itself can kill Teferi. We can go Freebooter Thalia, or we can go Freebooter Mantis Rider. I think I'd rather go Freebooter Thalia. All right, so let's go with this. We'll do this first, because this is something we know we're definitely doing. Freeboot comes into play. We're going to take that Path to Exile back. Our opponent's hand is basically Snapcaster Saheeli and a pile of lands. In that case, it actually might be better for us to play the Mantis Rider here then. Because Saheeli's just going to get to pick off Thalia. So it might be better for us just to play Mantis Rider. Yeah, that's fine. So we have white, blue, red, Mantis Rider. I mean, we could actually also just ignore this Teferi at this point because the plus ability has nothing to do for us. We just don't care about the plus ability here. So I think we're just going to attack them. I think we're just going to bypass this Teferi right now. All right, opponent, do your worst. Plus Teferi. Yep. Play a tap land. And do nothing. Okay. I'm going to leave Vial on 2 right now. Vial on 2 allows us to pass with our Vial up, and we can, if for some reason they just rip a Supreme Verdict or something off the top, we can end step with Thalia. So I'm going to leave Vial on 2 for right now. Another Vial is not a good draw. All right, so we get Mantis Rider. Mantis Rider just attack our opponent. There's no reason to attack with this Freebooter here. The only way it makes sense to attack with Freebooter. Oh no, actually we probably should. So if you attack with both, if they draw like a Lightning Bolt or something, they can just Lightning Bolt this, and then you still get in for 1 damage. So yeah, we will attack with both. We don't need to care about Teferi this turn. Maybe next turn. All right, so they don't do anything. Plus Teferi. They still do nothing. All right, so let's draw with our Canopy. Sin Collector is a good one. Sin Collector is a very good one. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to have 6 damage if we put the Thalia into play here. All right, so we'll do that. Let's put Thalia into play. We can also draw step this Sin Collector next turn just in case they draw a Supreme Verdict. So that being said, we're going to put Vial up to 3 here. All right, so Mantis Rider at our opponent, Thalia at our opponent. Freebooter at Teferi. Does this make sense? So this would have our opponent taking 5 down to 3. We keep Teferi from being able to bounce a creature. Or let's see, how much do we actually care about that? So if Teferi comes into play and gets to bounce one of our creatures, they get to draw another card. I think the only way we're going to get wrecked here is if they drew like a Settle the Wreckage. I guess the other question is if we want to send this at Teferi or not. If we send this at our opponent, it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be 6 damage, and then if we end step the Sin Collector, we're still going to have enough to kill them. I think this attack is fine. No Settle the Wreckage, please. right, so we're going to stop on our opponent's turn here with the Sin Collector. All right, so damage is happening. Our opponent is at 3. All right, they're going to fetch down to 2. So let's see. Do we need to do the Sin Collector? So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 mana. So if they draw Supreme Verdict, they can Wrath us, and then we can still end step Sin Collector to kill them. If we draw step this, we'll let them draw. Because we're not losing to a Supreme Verdict here. We'll let them do this. We can always end of turn if they find the Wrath. So we're going to hold on to this guy. This is a good end of turn play. This also works if they have like a Cryptic Command or something. We can end of turn take the Cryptic Command out of their hand. All right, so we know about the Saheeli. Oh, they didn't find it. All right. Like I said, I think we had them covered no matter what there with the Sin Collector. But all right, so we got a nice little win here against Jeskai. Jeskai is always a very tough matchup that you have to really tiptoe your way around, but it is winnable. So it is difficult, but it is winnable. So we have 4-0 here. We're going for the nice 5-0 sweep. We're going to try to get the trophy, and we're going to see how this last round lines up. Hopefully we get a good pairing. We had a win against Affinity. A win against Affinity, a win against the red-green Vengevine deck, a win against Jeskai, and I forgot what our last match was. All right, so hang out here. Let's check this out. One thing I always like to do for myself here is I like to watch these modern premiere events that people play online. Um, this is a very good, very high quality event for the most part. So you're looking at this round. This event was 9 rounds. 9 rounds is a very long event for online. So you have a 9-0 in the blue-white control bracket. Burn, Dredge, Dredge, Living End, a bunch of graveyard decks here. 2 blue-white control, Affinity, Amulet. Wow, look at all these Dredge. People do like playing their graveyard decks in Modern. Dredge is a very good deck. I've played it a handful of times. Um, it's incredibly powerful game 1. So I think part of the thing with Dredge here is you're going to have to kind of wait and see what's going to happen with this Mulligan rule. So they were talking about if they're going to put this London Mulligan rule into effect or not. They had that test period online. They had the test period for the Pro Tour, but they haven't given us an update on it yet. So we'll see what happens when that comes out. Dredge, Tron. There was a couple decks that really benefited from the rule, but we don't know what's happening with it yet, so we can't really make any assumptions at this point. All right, last round here. Looks like we're going to be on the draw. This is a good hand. We're going to keep this hand. So this is I guess it's going to really depend on what our opponent's doing. This hand has a couple good things going for it. We have turn 1 champion. We have the ability to go turn 1 noble, turn 2 mantis rider. So this tan definitely has a couple good avenues here that we can take. Burn. All right. Burn is a very, very close matchup. Being on the draw here could really cost us. And we have 3 Horizon Canopies. So this could be a little bit of trouble here for this game. Turn 1 champion, most of the time, is going to be your fastest clock. So if we go turn 1 champion, turn 2 lieutenant, turn 3 mantis rider, or we can go turn 1 noble, turn 2 mantis rider, turn 3 Thalia's lieutenant. But at that rate, you're kind of giving up on your champion of the parish draw. So I think this is going to be a hand where we're going to lead with the champion of the parish. I mean, there's a pretty high likelihood that this champion dies to like a Searing Blaze or something like that. But if it doesn't, this can do 1,000,000 damage. Opponent has double Swift Spear. Double Swift Spear, but only 1 land. Alright, so Thalia's Lieutenant. No land, no land, no land. So if we want to play a Mantis Rider here, we need to draw a land as well. We cannot currently cast a Mantis Rider off of our mana base. So this next turn might be a little bit lackluster for us. If we miss and we have to play just the Noble Hierarch. Yeah, I'm not blocking. Oh, Searing Blaze is really bad for us. Yep. Searing Blaze was basically worst case scenario there. So they get in the 2 extra damage, we take 3, and they kill our best creature on board. So we're just going to be toast. Yeah, that was definitely worst case scenario. And now we didn't hit the land, so we can't even play this Mantis Rider. All right, so now I'm not even going to attack with the Thalia's Lieutenant. But now they have their second land. We know their hand has 5 spells in it, so 4 spells. Now that they drew another land, another Swift Spear, play a spell, and we're dead. Yep, good enough. All right, so they hit their land, they got it. All right, so we get to bring in 3 Auriok champions. Sin collectors are sometimes good enough, but we'll see here. So we don't want any of these. We don't want Static Caster. We don't want Teague. We don't want Damping Sphere. So we have potentially 6 cards. Let's see what we want to change. I mean, Deputy of Detention might just not be good enough here. The one thing that you do have to worry about is sometimes these burn decks do play Ensnaring Bridge in their sideboard. So that is something you definitely have to be wary of. Reflector Mage is not great, so Reflector Mage can come out. So we still need to make 2 more cuts here. Ensnaring Bridge might be enough of a reason just to leave at least some number of deputies in. We're on the play, so I think Sin Collector is better on the play. We want the Freebooter Meddling Mage package. We might trim some images. Let's say we cut 2 images. We could also maybe trim one of these deputies. I don't know if we need all 3 deputies. Maybe we'll play 2. I think that looks good. So we have 2 deputies and we have 2 sin collectors that if they do have the bridge, we can nab the bridge before they get to play it. So I think this looks fine. All right, we're going to be on the play. This hand is a mulligan. This hand is not good enough. This hand is also not good. Turn 1 noble, turn 2 who knows, but we're going to go to 5 here. This one we'll keep. Thalia, we will keep on top. All right, so we're definitely at a disadvantage here. We're on the mulligan to 5. At least we're on the play, so it's a little bit better. We get to go noble into Thalia next turn. Another Swift Spear. Okay. Let's put our noble into play. How about an Auriok champion? We really don't need another noble. That was a pretty poor draw. I mean, we could just go noble, noble, and attack for 5. I think that's fine. Because if they play any spell, we can't block with Thalia anyway. So I think we're just going to go noble, noble, and attack for 5. All right, opponent, see what you got. Attacks. Yep. Searing Blood is good. This is the cards like this. The Searing Blood and Searing Blaze are the reason why this burn matchup is very tough. All right, so let's freebooter them. Let's see what's going on. They have 4 cards left. Oh man, their hand is good. Lightning Bolt, Searing Blood, Lightning Helix. I think this is going to be a tough game to win. We're going to take the Helix. Let's attack with a Noble. These are some of the best draws out of Burn. When they go Swift Spear, double Swift Spear, Goblin Guide. Any of these draws with creatures into a bunch of spells are the best draws out of Burn. So now they just Searing Blood, deal us damage, attack, and they have a Lightning Bolt. Oh, now they drew the land, so now they can Lightning Helix too. So 2, 4. If they play the Helix, it's 6, 7. So they have lethal here this turn. So we have to block one of these because now they could just Lightning Helix and deal us 9. But we're probably dead either way. Womp womp. All right. Well, like I said, even if we had a good draw there, we were still dead. We know they have a Lightning Bolt and a Skullcrack in their hand, so like I said, Burn is a very close matchup sometimes. We got pretty much just trounced here in this last round by Burn. I mean, but it happens. Our opponent had a good draw. Ours was a little bit lackluster, so they got the win. But we still had a nice 4-1. We still had a nice event. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up some of these chests, and we're going to see what we got going on here. All right. Cross our fingers. We're going to hit the open all button. We're going to see what this looks like, and hopefully we get a nice little hit here for our time and our effort. Yes, open all. 95 play points. That's junk. That's junk. We got an Eidolon of the Great Revel. Eidolon is, I'm going to say, maybe about 8 tickets, something along those lines from the last time I remember seeing it. I don't know if Exotic Orchard is worth anything. Mindslaver, I don't think so. They might be worth something. So Thragtusk, I think, is a little bit. So we got an 8-ticket Eidolon. We got 95 play points, which is almost entry into another event, but not bad, not bad. I mean, none of the heavy hitters here, but not a bad opening in and of itself. But all right, well, if you're still hanging out here, I do want to say thank you very much for watching. We play a lot of Modern, a lot of Legacy on this channel, so if you do like the content, feel free to give us a like, feel free to give us a subscribe, and we will see you next time. All right, thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.